We're back with I Forgot to Change the Title, Episode 19, Dragon Dropped. This is the episode in which Spike and Rarity have a big how to do, and that's all I'm going to say about it for right now. My chat has been arguing about it for the last, 5 or 6 minutes. This, as weird as this may sound, this is an episode I don't want to talk about. Because this is a weird episode to talk about. This is one of those episodes where it'd actually be better if it was a worse episode. And you could just be like, bleh, towards one particular group or the other. Whatever. So, rewind. As usual, I love the animations on Rarity when she pops in. Usual Rarity comment, the expressions. Her face, just the way they do it. So she goes in, Spike's writing up a message. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, Tabitha gets 3 pluses for this episode. Just whoosh, done. Moving on. Just for this episode. I'm going to go ahead and admit something personal here. I really hate it when I'm talking to someone and they give no audible reaction to that. Something that happens with a fairly large number of people I interact with, actually. Now, that's partially my fault because of the way I talk and how terrible and awful I am. But it's also partially their fault. Like, one of the things my sister and I have is, for example, I have to say confirm. And if she hears me say confirm, what she knows that means is I am asking for audible confirmation that she heard me. Because sometimes they're not listening to you, and sometimes they're just not responding, which is a thing, right? Some people just don't verbally respond, or some people don't give some kind of sign that they're listening, because that's just, they're focusing on something else, or they're doing something else. So, confirm, okay, cool, you heard me. So, yeah, I was kind of with Rarity there. Yeah, the difference between listening and hearing, exactly. I was kind of with Rarity there. It's like, Spike, pay attention! And he's like, oh yeah, I'm totally paying attention. Except he totally wasn't. He was very much not listening to her, and she was acting as if it was completely normal that he would want to listen to her, which makes sense since they are friends regardless of all of the factors. Obviously, we have to pick a side now between Spike and Rarity. So, I think the best possible side... And I think that makes it pretty conclusive, in my opinion. Nothing else really to debate. Anyways, also Spike apparently flies regularly now. That's interesting. So, Spike has abandoned his Rarity crush. Yay! Although, like I said, I don't actually want to talk about this episode. The episode goes very far out of its way to try and gray up the situation. I don't know if you noticed that. There's no clear bad guy here. There's nobody who is utterly and demonstrably at fault here. There's a couple individual instances of rudeness, but that's kind of it. And they're so minor, I barely even feel the need to mention them. So, Rarity goes off to the caves and is having trouble understanding why Spike doesn't want to be there. It's the caves. He always loves being at the caves, and everything's cool and awesome, and he's not here. And oh god, why does he want to be here? Why doesn't he want to be here? And you notice how when she starts off, she's mostly just kind of confused, and by the end of it, she's actually just flat out, bemoaning. Like, oh. And of course, she has asked Applejack to serve as Spike assistant for the day, which goes exactly as you think it would, especially since Applejack doesn't have the ability to move around something telekinetically, so all she can do is literally hold it. So Applejack, of course, says, I'm not Spike, and bats. Cool. Then she goes and talks to Twilight. They do this 3 times in the episode, and I'm going to try and mention it each time. When she talks, there's this orchestral flourish. Maybe I'm just still in the mindset of analyzing music. But they use the tragedy strings. Ah, ooh, ah, ah, ooh, every time she's speaking. And it accents her lines in the background. Then it switches to Twilight, who has a little oboe. And it goes back to Rarity. He's like, oh, you don't understand. I must apologize. It's straight out of an opera. And yeah, Tabitha is just going full tilt with this. It is extraordinarily enjoyable to perceive. She's just, wow. I must apologize. For what? That's hardly the point. Then we see Gabby. Now, did you notice the background gag there? Because Gabby's there, and, you know, she's delivering stuff for Muffin. And then Rarity starts shoving the giant box of stuff into the post office. And immediately, Muffin is like, oh my god, and shuts the thing. We're closed! Speaking as someone who has worked in retail more than once in his life, yeah, I wish. Because you know what it's like. You know what it's like when you see those problem customers coming. It's like, nope, nope. Anyways, so, all right, Gabby, maybe you can help me out. Yeah, sure, no problem. Okay, so hang on here. And it's just a pile of gems and comic books. It's just a pile of gems and comic books. I actually double checked. It froze the game or the episode for a few seconds, just to verify. So, yeah, and yeah, this was actually an intro because they've never met, and that's also why we get a little bit of backstory exposition for those of you who, A, don't remember Gabby, and B, for Rarity, who doesn't know her to begin with. She's probably heard of her from Sweetie Belle, but that's probably as far as that's gone. Anyways, so, spotlight, music, no, I'm so sorry. What are you apologizing for? I don't see why that matters. Alright. Spike comes in, hey, what's up? Hey, yeah, I'm just working on my apology to you. Spike! Ah, quick, music. Please. Hey, I feel like I'm just repeating the episode at this point. The animation, voice acting, musical accompaniment, sound design are all spot on. So much so, in fact, that I'm going to give a negative to the episode for it. Okay, not really. But was anyone else really bothered by the ice cream just dripping? And as the conversation went on, I just kind of kept being bothered more and more and more. Like, oh my god, stop dripping the ice cream on the floor! Have you ever cleaned up ice cream? That is a pain. Now, granted, it's a hardwood floor. I actually checked. But still, it's just like, stop dripping the ice cream on the floor! Christ! Drip, drip. It's like a solid minute and a half. Drip, drip, drip. So then we get a little bit of backstory, and it does make sense that both Gabby and Spike would connect. First of all, you know, they both are unique members of their particular species. They are friends in town. Daylight saving time sucks. Oh my god. And they both deliver messages, but of course they also have connecting threads. So they've probably been hanging out for a little bit now at this point. Oh yeah, they're also probably closer in age. Because Rarity is definitely adult range, and Gabby definitely isn't. So, please forgive me. What are you apologizing for? Why does everyone keep harping on about that? Wait, shouldn't you know what I'm apologizing for? And the whole time, in the background, there's this pile of gems and comic books with these two eyes just going, Just watching the whole scene until Gabby finally bops out, wah! I'm pointing out these things because this is one of those rare episodes where I would have to do a scene-by-scene analysis to really do it justice. The animation and the storyboarding, the sequence of events as far as what is happening where, is extraordinarily good in this episode. Like, better than usual. So, there's the ice cream thing I already mentioned. Gabby and Spike connect, which I already mentioned. Rainbow is trying to carry everything with her things, and Rarity's just like, oh, it's just not the same. Oh my god, Daylight Saving Time still sucks. Oh, it's just not the same without Spiky Wikey. Alright. We've actually talked about it, and I myself have complained in the past about how Rarity would misuse Spike's crush to her own benefit. I don't think that's happening in this episode. Now, hear me out for just a second. But within the episode specific, we actually see the montage of all the events that she would go about in her daily job and how she would interact with Spike with them. And she's kind of legit with him. You know, sharing the cucumber or wanting to make sure that he gets the right gems in the cave or whatever, right? It's clear that she legitimately values his presence, not just as a servant, but as a friend, as someone that she actually likes hanging with, and I feel that. And I only point that out because I think they specifically did that during this montage sequence to try and soften up the fact that in past episodes, it was absolutely true that Rarity would abuse and misuse him as her personal servant. You know what I mean? So, if I was to be generous, I would probably mention that this is... I would say that the intention, is probably that this has been a situation that's been getting better over time. You know, that she was that crappy, and that she has gotten to the point where she isn't that crappy anymore by the time of this episode. In fact, now she actually legitimately values his time, attention, company, and presence. And yeah, as usual, of course, she doesn't even notice that until he's gone. It's like, oh wow, this really sucks to do without my friend. And it's an interesting topic in its own right, because, again, it is clearly mutual. And so Rarity... Now, this is when the episode kind of goes, because Rarity then offers Spike a great day at the Crevasse. It's only open once a year. It's a unique opportunity. It has to happen now. She couldn't have planned that. You know what I mean? Like, she could not have actually sat down and said, I'm going to make this special thing just so she has to make time for me. So that was clearly a spontaneous, what's a thing he would really enjoy? Oh my gosh, that's tomorrow. Let's jump on that. So my point here is that I think there's a decent amount of evidence that the initial gift, the day at the Crevasse, had no manipulation and no nothing involved. It was just, this is a perfect way to give back to Spike and to show my appreciation for him as a friend. And I think the attitudes involved and the voice acting, the animation, all support that as well. So the Crevasse, cool, nothing wrong with that. And I was just like, oh, like when I'm watching the episode, that's actually pretty nice of her. Okay, cool. And then there's going to be a continuity plus. Yes, separate from the arc. This is definitely getting an arc counter, but we're going to give a continuity plus for the Power Ponies reference. And yeah, even Gabby was like, oh, cool. Yeah, let me go ahead and give the continuity boost really quick, and then the arc, because this is season 9, the season of arcs. Scroll down a little bit here. So, you know, hey, there's a Power Pony convention. Okay. Well, speaking personally, while conventions are time-limited events, they usually last for about a week on average in real life. I actually did used to do the convention scene semi-regularly. In fact, you can still find some of my Gen Con videos on my channel somewhere. And yeah, Gabby's face just kind of drops. It's like, oh. And it's like, all right. This is where it's like, are you still giving this as a gift? So if I was to give my judgment, and I'm not sure, to be 100% honest, I would say that there is still, even as of the point when she starts playing Ogres and Oubliettes, there's still at least some of her that this is still a gift. But I also think that with each gift, it gets a little bit more, I want to monopolize the time of my friend because I'm not used to not having him problem, right? So what I'm trying to say is my opinion, and this is just a speculation, is that the first thing, the Crevasse, purely innocent. 100% cool, here, done. The second one, less innocent. Maybe like 90, 80%. And then the third one with the Ogres and Oubliettes, that drifts closer to like the 70 to 60% range. And it's like, yeah, starting to get a little bit more on the, you know, the monopolizing thing. A little bit more of that. Side note, I do actually like how Spike apparently bought an entire cart worth of junk at the Power Pony convention, which, okay, yes, I know. One of the things me and my family used to love doing most at the convention was going through the shopping area. I mean, it literally dominates half the convention center, for God's sakes. And just seeing literally the dice I have right here, my wonderful black and white dice, I actually got at Gen Con. So I get it. You know, it's what you do. But God, an entire card, Spike? Jesus Christ. And of course, Rarity had the Maniac thing. Actually, yeah, consequently, I also got this at Gen Con. And you're probably thinking, what the heck is this? This is Earthworld. It's a hardback, if it's not obvious there. And I got this sucker at Gen Con. I actually met the artist. I think I got it signed. Yep, right there. Even says thank you to the lore runner. Whoop, right there. Yeah. I think I've shown this off before, but also my signed questionable content I got from Jacques. That's how you pronounce his name, personally. Yep, this one right there. I asked him to sketch Hannelore in the book. I actually own all his books, but this is the one I got in person, so to speak. Anyway, sorry. Point being, I get it, but damn. A couple of things, they're good loud. So, so the convention's done, and they're all tired, and it's like, oh man, I just gotta rest. And honestly, if it kind of stopped there, I'd be willing to just sort of let it go, because, okay, sure. But then she shows up and she's like, hey, let's play Ogres and Oubliettes. And it's like, okay, rarity. I get it. You've missed Spike and his presence. You need to pull back a little bit. I will also admit that I'm one of the extremely weird people because intellectually engaging things actually relax me. Because, you know, I don't know. I don't have an answer to finish that sentence. But... like, if I need to relax, playing D&D, for example, is actually something that is relaxing for me, as long as I'm doing it under the right circumstances. So I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, let's play Ogres and Oubliettes and chill. Sure, that sounds legit. The thing is, Gabby then comes over. Gabby's like, hey, and you... oh, you just didn't want to hang out with me. Okay, boy. And yes, I saw that Rarity got attacked by a green-eyed monster. Ha ha ha. Exactly, Ross. You get it. And this is also a scene I didn't like, because Gabby is hurt, and that sucks. You know, that is unpleasant. And Rarity is totally oblivious to it. Now, in the interest of fairness, Rarity does have a bit of a perception problem. Her perception score is very low. But the fact that she completely misses that both Spike... well, no, that Gabby is upset, and she just kind of insists on going around her daily routine with Spike, despite the fact that she does notice that Spike is upset, is just kind of like... and yeah, Gabby absolutely jumps to a conclusion here, and that's... this is one of the other reasons I don't want to talk about this episode, because the problem is this episode makes so much more sense if you think it's romantic. It does. There's nothing else for that. I don't mean that they should be. I'm not trying to ship anyone. What I mean is that the way that we react and interact psychologically is literally different when romance is at play. If you're crushing on someone, you will spend more time on them, often to the expense of other people's time. And when you're crushing on someone, you tend to be more upset when they spend time with someone other than you. Especially if they do so under perceivingly false precepts. Now, I know it's not romantic. But the problem is the episode doesn't actually work if it's just friends. It is constructed and written as if it's romantic, and then rewritten to remove the romantic text from it without removing the romantic subtext. And so the structure doesn't work as well. Because there is such a thing as being jealous of a friend who spends more time with other friends, because that's a real thing and a real problem. But this episode doesn't even begin to touch on that. It doesn't even get close to that category. In fact, we've actually seen this very show do better than that with Rarity. So... and this is one of the last reasons I didn't want to talk about this is all, because the whole episode's structure is, and I'm just going to say this as bluntly as I can, wrong. And not like morally wrong. I mean, it's incorrect. I mean... this episode needed a retooling and a redesign from its core skeleton. You can't just go Rarity takes, Rarity retakes, Rarity retakes, Gabby hurt, attempt at rejoinder, reconnection. Like, this doesn't work out under the precepts that is being showcased. So this skeleton needs to be restructured to completely remove certain elements of it in order for it to work in the way that it is supposed to, aka them being friends. But they didn't. So instead it sucks. I'm being disingenuous. This is a very good episode, but it absolutely hurts the episode that that subtext remains on camera. And it still informs the skeleton of the episode. So, Gabby rushes off. Okay, whatever. And, Rarity naturally has a fainting couch. Even Twilight's like, ugh, at a certain point. I do like how Rarity repeats her apology trick to Gabby. Oh, I'm so sorry to you, Gabby. What's all this stuff for Spike? Oh no, this is not a gift. This is evidence. I will admit that got a legitimate grin out of me. It's evidence. Like, yeah, okay. I've been monopolizing Spike's time. And this gets to the sharing friends thing, which again could have been an entire episode topic by itself. It's not, but it could have been an entire topic by itself. And yeah, she wanted to prove that it's not Spike's fault, that it's her fault, and then she had to apologize to Spike, and... yes, I did, Ross, actually. There's, like I said, there's a lot of little details in this episode. It's a very interesting episode, because it is, in some aspects, it is very well constructed, and in others, it is actually terribly constructed. It's just kind of... giving me a bit of whiplash here. It makes me wonder if it was initially designed with one angle or the other, and then had to be changed into the other from the initial, because it clearly has bones of both sides here. Anyways, so she apologizes to Spike, she apologizes to Gabby, they talk about sharing friends, that's a topic, like I mentioned, and then the bats, wah wah, cut to credits. This is a weird one for me to judge as far as quality, because it's ultimately, and this is going to sound like an insult, but I don't quite mean it as one, this is it's a popcorn episode. Like, it's enjoyable to watch. It made me laugh more than once. There's some really good acting, really good animation, really good storyboarding. But as far as core meat, there's almost none. There's nothing really to sink my teeth into in this episode. No big themes, no, great elements to it or whatever, right? So yeah, I would say orange is the floor. I agree. It is definitely an above average episode. It's just there's nothing that pushes it up to purple whatsoever. So the question remains, is this an orange or is this a red? Scooch over here. We got Josh Haber. There we go. He's done a lot of orange episodes in Season 9. Well, I say a lot, too. Yeah, there's a lot of great comedic timing in the episode, too. A lot of the jokes aren't actually jokes at all. They're just timing jokes, which I've talked about before. And Gabby's awesome, as she usually is. And yes, the end of the Rarity Crushes, at long last. Let's see, where are we at in Season 9? Have we had a purple in Season 9? I guess we maybe haven't. Looking through the spreadsheet here. There's in Season 8, there's Season 7. Nope, we had one purple in Season 9, the beginning of the end, Part 2. I think that is our least... Actually, I could just check that. Nope. That makes this season better than Season 1, which had 0 purples. Season 1 is also the only season to have no purples, by the way. And yeah, I've noticed that, Trihexia. It really feels... If I was to discuss this from a constructive perspective, I would say that Season 9 feels like they just sort of woke up and realized they've been spinning their wheels too much and doing too much filler before now, which they have. And then like, oh shoot, we should start actually moving in several ways, which we should have done several seasons ago. And so they do. And so a lot of the Season 9 episodes feel like they should have been before now. I don't really blame them for that. I mean, after all, they were expecting to get a Season 10. But, nevertheless, it very much feels like they're like, oh shoot, what have we left dangling? Speaking of which, as a reminder, for those of you who didn't hear the earlier announcement, we are covering 3 episodes today. I'll say that again after the second episode. I'm going to get some flack for this. I think I'm actually going to give this episode a red. I do think its core skeleton has problems. I do. And I don't think it has meat to it, but it is an extremely well-crafted piece of popcorn. And for that alone, I think I will go ahead and push it up to red. Now, so what's next? Hang on, scroll down. Looks like a horse shoe-in is next. Hang on. Yep, a horseshoe in, and we'll also be watching Daring Doubt today. So I have no idea what a horseshoe in is, but I suppose we'll find out in about 25 minutes.